The Blue Blood, a story by Slime Special 681, Chapter 3. 3 hours out from the Sol System. The Fire Bridel had a single massive mess hall capable of serving 20,000 Shavanti at any given time. He also had 2 specialty lounges capable of serving 250 souls, in addition to a small bar capable of serving 500 souls at a time. In light of the size of the current complement of Marines and Nobles, however, all but the mess hall had been exclusively reserved for the various officers. As such, the ship's remaining occupants were assigned to one of 3 groups of roughly 20,000, each of which were allotted 3 specific meal periods. There was an in-flight room service, but it too was being monopolized by the officers and their families. Unfortunately for the would-be governors and governesses, this meant they had to swallow their pride and eat with everyone else. Tray in hand, Baron Tetris Stamatios surveyed the mess hall. There were many tables with open seats, but none with the type of clientele he was looking for. He was just about to give up and sit down with his family when he saw the second prince sit down with Baron Almor Drist and Earls Tamer Strim and Ribar Droon. He smiled at his luck that the 2 earls' wives were currently absent, likely at another table, trying to play politics of their own. Without a moment more of hesitation, he made his way over to the end of the table next to Droon.
I get what you're trying to say, my prince, but I must disagree. The Navy is the pride and joy of the Imperium for the explicit reason that it dictates the course of every major engagement, land or otherwise,
Almor told the young captain.
I understand that's how it usually goes. What I am referring to is the inability of the majority of our ground forces to operate independently of our fleet, Dura pressed. Like I stated, the fleet determines everything. It's the ultimate high ground, more than capable of glassing anything that gives our ground forces pause, let alone trouble.
The 2 earls nodded in agreement to the Baron's statement.
There isn't a fleet around every world, Baron, nor is every fleet equipped to glass a target from orbit.
Almor went to speak before the prince cut him off and continued.
This very campaign is an example of a situation where the fleets that are capable of supporting our ground forces are withdrawn from said force to handle a more pressing concern. With the fleets gone, what happens to them if they are faced with a competent enemy now? The current situation is highly irregular. You see...
Almor stopped as Tetris placed his tray and sat next to Raybar.
Don't stop on my account. I quite like politics and the related fields. Right. Well, as I was saying, the current situation is an outlier. Even if one was to account for it, the interior can quickly crush any rebellion while it's in its infancy.
I agree. Between the loyalist militants, informants, and the interior, any rebellion is doomed before it can begin.
Tamara added, throwing his hat into the ring.
Those are all ground-based forces. Like I said earlier, as a whole the Imperium's ground forces, with a notable exception of the interior, Deathheads, and Golden Glaives, are not prepared to wage a ground campaign. There's not enough locally based strike craft, shuttles, or armored ground carriers for transports, or even exos.
All that compounded by the arms edict of the Empress Falsa, I suppose.
Ribar mused, earning him a confused look from everyone at the table.
I can't seriously be the only one who knows about that.
He was greeted by more confused looks.
Look, I know my wife's family manufactures the HS lasers, so I'm exposed to this sort of thing more often than most. I just figured that 2 high-ranking military officers would understand one of the main reasons for our Marines' arms and loadouts. About 100 years ago, Empress Falsa issued an edict that forbids the manufacturing, distribution, and use of anti-armor directional weapons for ground personnel. In order to decrease the likelihood of insurgents successfully taking out Imperial armor, all anti-armor capabilities are to be reserved for the fleet. It drives my wife halfway up the wall anytime it comes up.
That explains a lot, actually. Dura sighed while rubbing his temples. Tetris took the momentary lull in the conversation as a prime opportunity to start running some ideas past his new associates. We are coming out of shock in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The bridge shook briefly. Then there, on the view screen, was the planet of the sexy space babes. A chair went up amongst the bridge crew. Only Fleet Admiral Marie T. Sepera remained composed. "I want the fleet in its assigned position within the hour," she stated in a clear, commanding tone.
Yes, ma'am.
The command deck erupted in unison before returning back to their stations. "Data Officer Pilar," Sepera said, turning to the youngest member of the command staff. Yes, ma'am?" She responded, nervously shifting ever so slightly in her seat under the Admiral's gaze. "I want you to cross-check the information's incoming data with everything the Exploration Corps has given us. I want any discrepancies between now and deployment noted and compiled for my review."
Yes, ma'am."
She said as much out of relief as she did respect before returning back to her own station. The deck still buzzed with nervous energy and excitement, but it was sharper now, more focused, deadly. With Fleet Commander Sepera at its head, everyone in the system knew that Earth was already the Empress's. Everyone, that is, except for the Terrans.
Hey everyone, would like to welcome all new viewers and would like to give Slime Special a special thanks for giving me all the shoutouts. I like the setting of this story. It's nice to get a bit of a view of, the nobility and their side of things, and it's gonna be neat to finally get some more detail and action on the actual invasion of Earth. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing where this story goes, and more videos coming out soon. Have a wonderful day.